Hello, I welcome everybody who has joined us. My name is Olga Tamanova and Media Center Ukraine in Ukrinform, which is beginning its work. This is the 9th year of the war and 229th day since the beginning of the full-scale invasion of Russian aggressor to our land. I'd like to thank all of the representatives of media who are telling the truth to the world about this war. Today our team has prepared the following events. At 1:30 p.m. we'll get in touch with Yuri Ignat, Speaker of the Air Forces Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. We'll be speaking about the Russian missile strikes on Ukraine. At 2:30 p.m. we'll be joined by Alexander Horunzhy, Press Officer of the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. We'll be speaking about the consequences of all of the missile strikes which have been conducted by the occupiers against our country. At 3:30 p.m. we'll be joined by Mykola Povoroznik, First Deputy Head of Kyiv City State Administration, and we will be speaking about the security measures in the capital city, and also we'll be planning about the restoration of the infrastructure here. But now we are in touch with Artem Kysko, Chief of Police of Zaporizhzhia region. Artem, hello. Hello, studio, and hello, all of the presentees. Hello, Artem. We know that Zaporizhzhia again was under missile shellings of the Russians. What are the consequences? What's the current situation? I would like to say that since the beginning of the full-scale war beginning and the aggression, Zaporizhzhia city and Zaporizhzhia district was under 202 missile shellings or strikes. The outcomes of these shellings are 242 persons died, the residents of Zaporizhzhia, among whom 10 are children, 713 were wounded, 39 among them are children. If we describe and characterize what's taking place, all of the shellings, almost all of them, were during the night from 10 p.m. till 8 a.m. The main objects of the shellings were the objects of civil infrastructure, hotels, the houses of recreation, the educational institutions, but most of all, the private buildings and other multi-storied buildings were damaged. So the aggravation of this situation has taken place in August this year, when we all remember the first terrorist act which was committed by Russian Federation. This was done on the 13th of September, when 3 missile strikes were conducted of S-300 missiles against the humanitarian column close to the main road. During this terrorist act, 30 people died, among whom 2 children, 89 people were wounded, among whom 1 child. But this was not the end. On the 6th of October, there were 9 missile strikes during the night against the multi-storied buildings in the center of the city. 20 people died, 14 were wounded, among whom 3 children. Unfortunately, 1 child died. So the next day, during the night, on the 7th of October, there were 5 missile strikes and then 2 strikes by Shahed drones. 1 civilian died, 6 were wounded. On the 8th of October, during the night, there was the strike by Iskander M against the central part of the city. 1 civilian died, 6 persons were injured, and several buildings were destroyed. In the night of the 9th of October, there were 10 missile strikes conducted both by S-300 and HA-22. 14 people, including 1 child, died. 78 were wounded, among whom 10 are children. And as of now, we are still taking away the rubble with the help of the employees of the State Emergency Service. So 17 people are considered to be missing. So unfortunately, we understand that they could be under the debris. On the 10th of October, during the night, there were 8 missile strikes against the city. 6 people died, 8 were injured, and also The employees of the state emergency services are taking out the rubble and the debris. 6 people are considered missing. The residents of the multi-storied buildings which were destroyed. And on the 11th, that is today, during the night, we had 12 missile strikes, the consequences of which are 1 person died, the automobile saloon was destroyed, the orphanage and the boarding school was, the children's boarding school was destroyed. We are still registering and documenting the consequences of this crime of Russian Federation. Artem, could we tell that the occupiers are mostly striking against the civilian infrastructure? I can tell you the following. Not a single military object, not a single military unit in the vicinity of those objects which were under attack, those civil buildings and the private sector, there were no military units around. The information about the deceased or wounded servicemen is not available. I now listed the results of these shellings and the number of the wounded civilians. There were police officers who were affected by them as well. But again, I emphasize, there was not a single military object close to the strikes. So this is the targeted action by Russian Federation to inflict and to achieve demoralization, and in this way to impact the population, to destabilize the situation. Artem, is there any help and support staff or headquarters where the relatives of the people who are considered missing can get to? In each of the places of shellings, in each of the places of tragedy, the regional military administration, the state emergency service, the police organized the headquarters, which is working directly at the crime scene. Moreover, we posted the information at all of the websites, the phone numbers and contacts connected with the messengers, because there are some relatives at the occupied territories who do not have mobile coverage, so they have internet connection only, and they are just very attached to internet messages only. We are collecting this information directly when people are getting to us at the place of the event, and also using the information from the hotline 102 and other phone numbers which we mentioned on the websites. We analyze this information and give it to the state emergency service for them to take into consideration how many people can be found from under the rubble. As for the criminal proceedings which are registered because of these facts, how many of those proceedings and how do they qualify these actions by Russians? In each of those facts, the investigation service of the Security Service of Ukraine, they have created the criminal proceeding according to the Article 438. They conduct the examination of the crime scenes, the qualification of this article is the violation of the rules of war. And as the territory inflicted is very vast, the investigators of the national police are also involved in the investigative operational actions. They examine the places, they take the fragments of the shells. We involve certain experts to find out where the fire was conducted from, what are the types of the missiles. All of that is documented thoroughly to be used in the international courts later. I thank you. We've got a question from the audience. Please, the mic. No, we don't have any questions. Artem, speaking about the work of police under these conditions, which challenges seem for you to be the most complicated? The police of Zaporizhzhia region is ready and to provide services to our citizens in the most qualified manner and to provide the work under these conditions. First of all, this is the primary medical help and evacuation of the wounded citizens, together with the state emergency service, together with the medics, as sometimes first, after the ruinations, there are lots of people affected, and their life depends on the high quality and rapid treatment and help. After that, the police officers are involved, together with the state emergency service, in the evacuation of these citizens, the patrolling of the perimeter, and the examining of the destroyed buildings. Because during the first moments, we need to understand where, in which of the apartments there can be found some of the people alive to provide help together with the state emergency service. And after we understand where the people are located, first of all, we need to take away the rubble and debris, and then the police officers begin the documenting the consequences which I just listed. Artem, thank you so much that you found time and joined our air. We thank you, dear colleagues. I do remind you we had Artem Kysko, Chief of Police of Zaporizhzhia region. And our next briefing will take place at 1:30 p.m. We'll be joined by the Speaker of the Air Forces Command of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Yuri Ignat. Stay with us.